Great. Thank you so much for joining us today. So we're going to just quickly introduce ourselves. My name is Renita Ezel. I am the Outreach and Enrollment Coordinator for the Open Choice Program, formerly Project Concern, and I am fortunate to be a product of that program. I was in the Open Choice Program starting in 3rd grade and graduated from the West Harvard school system. And we'll talk a little bit more about Open Choice a little bit later. And I've been with CREC now for 12, going on 13 years. And with me is my colleague, Callie Bostick-Gardner. I'll let her introduce herself to you.
Thank you, Renita. Good morning, everyone. As Renita said, my name is Callie Bostick-Gardner, and I am in the Regional School Choice Office with my colleague, Nilda Fernandez, who will be joining us shortly. We're both family resource specialists in the office, working for CREC, but in the Regional School Choice Office, we are there to help families with the application and to answer any questions that you might have about how to apply. Happy to be here.
So we wanted to just share the reason why we're doing this. All of us, the 3 of us, work very closely with the State Department of Education, the Regional School Choice Office, and the other partners that are within or under the umbrella of the Regional School Choice Office. And we spend a lot of time on the phone with parents. We spend a lot of time at fairs just trying to help them to better understand the process. And that can be very exhausting when you're on the phone 15 minutes or so with the parent. And so we came up with the idea, why don't we just go step by step and share everything that we usually share one-on-one with parents, so that hopefully we can reach more people and give more people a better understanding of the RSCO lottery application process. So we're going to just ask if you could hold your questions. After we get through with each segment, we're going to allow you to answer questions. There's also the chat box that you can also write your questions in, and we'll stop and take a moment to go through those questions as well. But we're hoping kind of that we're thorough enough that we will answer all of those questions for you. And again, we are recording this session so that, and we will make it available on our various websites periodically through Facebook and the new choice website called choosecrec.org, so that you can go back to it and refer to it when you have any questions or for future reference. But we ask that you please share this with families if you felt that it was useful, that hopefully more families can get a better idea and understanding of the RSCO policy. So I'm going to let, our other colleague, Nilda Hernandez, just walked in, so I'm going to let her introduce herself to you.
Good morning. This is Nilda. I'm a family resource specialist. Glad to be here this morning. Hopefully we may be able to help you with any questions that you may have. I also speak Spanish if there's anybody out there who wishes to talk to someone with a Spanish speaking. So we hope we can help you out. Thank you.
Can everyone hear us all right?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So the page that we're going to start on is the main page for the Regional School Choice Office. It is the page that you will land on if you were to enter the choiceeducation.org URL. On that page, if you can all see it and are with me, to the right is an orange box, and that box has a link in it that indicates that you should click if you want to apply now, or if you want to log back in after having created an application. So we'll go ahead and click on that link, which brings you to the next page, or the welcome page. Now, I'm going to be clicking English to start, but you do have the option, if you would like, to choose Spanish to complete the application. Everything has been translated for a user who would prefer to complete the application in Spanish. Once we click on English to start, the option here is to, sorry about that. The option is to close this. Sorry. The options, there are three options on this page. It's asking whether or not we want to reapply. If you've already done an application the year previous to this lottery season and click on reapply, you'll be able to enter your own email and name that you used for the application last year. Do we have anyone on the call who did an application last year?
Yes, I did.
I did also.
Great. So if you click reapply and enter your email address and password, the system will bring you to a page, hopefully not that one. Is that Yahoo or Gmail?
At Gmail, Hotmail.
Hotmail, that's the issue. The system will bring you to this page that shows that you are a returning user. It is asking you to verify in this box that your telephone number that you used from the year previously is the correct number. And you'll have to click here if it is, or if not, you can go ahead and change the number. In case you're now using an email that is different from last year, you would have to contact the Regional School Choice Office to change your email, which you'll see here by the link. But in this case, we're going to move ahead as if you were using an email that you used to log in last year. Your address will automatically be populated, and this is a new feature this year in the application that we're really happy to see. But as we scroll down the page, the address has already been populated that was used last year. And in this section, you're again being asked to confirm that your address is correct. There's a second box below that is asking if you would like to use the same address for your child. In some family cases, the parent may reside at an address that is different than the address of their child. If the address for your child is the same and you click this box, then when we move to the student information page, the address of your child will automatically be populated. If you have a living situation where the child is living separate from you, you would not check this box, and you would have the opportunity to populate a home address for the student on a separate page.
Yeah, good question, Kelly. So what happens if a parent has a different address from a child? Because we have a lot of parents that are separated, sharing custody. One lives in Hartford, let's say, and another lives in a suburban town outside of Hartford. Which address should be, when should they click that box for the child to have the same address or not click it?
Well, so if you click that, if your child has a separate address from you and you do not check this box, the address that you enter on the application for your child under student information will be the address that is used for the purposes of conducting the lotteries. That will be the address identified with the child and the address that is used for transportation purposes. The address of the parent, being different from the child, is the address to which all mail will be sent. So is that a clear answer for you, Renita? All right, great. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click that I'm using the same address for the child, but again, be aware that you can insert a different address, and you'll see that that will be populated for me as we move forward. The parent guardian information has already been carried forward, and the section that we're in now actually is additional parent guardian information. So the applicant parent is William Ezel up at the top, the father, and William has decided to add Renita as an additional parent guardian, and the relationship here is mother. Just a quick note, everything on any of these pages that has an asterisk associated with it has to be completed before you can move forward. You may use the same email address for both mother and father or for co-parents on the application, but if you would like to enter a different email address here, you may. All right, we'll move forward to the next part, which will be now a verification that you have created an application. You'll see the applicant parent name, the email address that has transferred in from last year, and you are able to begin to add a student. If you click here on Add Student or Child, the first thing you're going to enter is the student's date of birth. And we will choose today's date, November 11th, and we want to go with 2010. This is a page that is probably familiar to you if you did an application last year, but for those who are returning, we're just going to enter the student's first name. The middle name is not required. It doesn't have an asterisk, so we can go ahead and enter the last name. The date of the birth has been carried forward and calculated that the student is age 6, and we'll choose a gender. Because we chose the address to be the same as the parent applicant, the address has been carried forward for us. By the way, if you do choose to enter a P.O. box in addition to your home address, just to note that the P.O. box is what is going to be used for you to receive all mail. Moving into the race ethnicity section, I'm going to click No to the question, is the student Hispanic Latino? And then I must choose a student race. As a side note, for anyone who is completing this application, if you choose yes for Hispanic Latino, please note that regardless how the question is answered, you still need to choose a race in Part B of the application. Both need to be answered in order to move forward. So we're making an application for a student who is age 6, and this box in current school is asking us to choose current school district. And in this regard, depending upon whether your child is in a home district school, in a magnet school, in the open choice program, you'll need to choose the appropriate district for your child. Team, what do we want to choose here? Would we like to make this a home district school? Or?
We'll end up doing both, so let's start with home district.
All right, so we have said that this student is living in Hartford, so we're going to choose Hartford as the school district. Current school at age 6. Let's just choose Burr, which is an elementary school in Hartford. Current grade as kindergarten. And the grade that we'd like to apply to for Lottery 2017 is going to be grade 1. So now we've completed all of the basic student information.
So I have some questions about that, Callie. So this year, we encounter, like every year, parents who might find out they've received a placement, but then we're told that the child was retained. And so I know that some parents are having communication with teachers throughout the year in the spring. And what should a parent do if, or some recommendations, if the school is saying that there's a possibility that the child will be retained?
It's a good question because we do encounter this year after year. Just please note that as you're completing an application, the application, let's just say you have an idea or you think that your child, to Renita's point, might be retained, or you may, as a parent, just think that you would like to have your child repeat the grade. The application is not going to allow you to choose the same grade as your child's current grade. If you do, as I've done, kindergarten, you will get a pop-up box letting you know that you're not able to select the same grade for your child. Someone's child.
We're going to ask if you could please mute your phone. Everyone mute your phone. We really would prefer not to mute everyone, so that if you have a question as we're talking, you can just jump right in. But in the meantime, if you could mute yourself to eliminate any background noise so it won't interfere with us being able to hear questions and the presenters sharing information, that would be great. And then if you have a question, just take yourself off of mute. Thank you.
So yeah, I'm sure you all can see the pop-up box here, just as a reminder to you that you may not choose the same grade, but give us a call at RSCO, and we'll be able to help you with the application. In order to move forward on this application, even if you are aware that your child is being retained, you'll have to go ahead and choose the appropriate grade, which would be the next year grade. When the student information is completed, you'll go ahead and move into the body of the application. The application allows you to choose 2 programs. You may choose both programs, the Open Choice program or the Magnet program. You may choose the Open Choice program and the Magnet program, or just one or the other. The first section that you come to, and we have entered this application as a Hartford resident. So on this application, the first section is the Hartford Region Open Choice program.
What exactly is that, and how is it different from Magnet schools?
So the Open Choice program, which is described here, is a program that allows either a Hartford student to attend school in the suburbs, and the school in the suburbs would not be a Magnet school. The reverse is also true. If we were doing an application with a suburban address, the suburban non-Hartford student would be able to choose from a list of Hartford schools that are non-Magnet schools, but that do have a theme associated with them. So for example, if you were a parent from Bolton working in Hartford and wanted to expand your options, you would be able to choose a Hartford public school with a theme, such as Montessori. It wouldn't be a Magnet school. It would be a non-Magnet school, but it would be an additional option for you on your application, along with the Magnet schools you might choose. Students are eligible in pre-K 4 all the way up to grade 10, and you may choose up to 5 districts, whether you are suburban or Hartford, to attend. So let's just say that I am going to apply to the Open Choice program for my child who resides in Hartford. So I answer yes. And the pop-up here is telling you that if you say yes, and please keep in mind that this screen will be similar for you if you're a suburban parent choosing this option. The pop-up is telling you that if you choose this program and you choose Magnet schools, you are eligible for an offer in only one or the other program. So if you choose to apply to both Open Choice and Magnet, and you were fortunate to receive an offer, your receipt of an offer in one of those programs will mean that you will not get an offer in the other. So if you apply here to Open Choice and you are in receipt of an offer, please know that at that point in time, you will not be receiving an offer from a Magnet school. So if you know when you are doing your application that you only want to Open Choice or you only want Magnet, then please only apply to one program or the other. We get a lot of questions about this in the office because parents feel they might get an offer to one program and then they'll have second thoughts and think, you know what, I think I'll just wait for my offer to come through from the other program. And at that point, you cannot wait. You've already received an offer, so you are one and done for the lottery at that point.
Are there any preferences if, say, a family chooses to apply to only Open Choice or to only a Magnet school?
Great question. If you apply in this lottery to Open Choice only and not to a Magnet school, when the lottery is run, you will receive a preference into a district that you've chosen after all siblings who are in those districts have been placed. If you would choose on your application magnet school only and not open choice, we don't currently at this time have a magnet school only preference. So choosing one program only applies to open choice, but not to magnet. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. We've said yes to the open choice program, and now, based on the address that we've entered into the application in Hartford, the system is automatically determined that I live in Zone 4. This zone designation is specific only to Hartford applicants. Hartford is divided into 4 zones, northeast and northwest, southeast and southwest, in order, when placing a student into the open choice program, to shorten the bus ride that students will have to the districts that they choose to attend. So this student is in Zone 4, which is the southeastern portion of Hartford. The question is asking, do we have a sibling currently enrolled in open choice, which is another preference that an open choice applicant can have. RSCO would like to keep families together, so if a student has a brother or sister currently enrolled in the program, RSCO will do what they can to place the next sibling in that same district. I'm going to say that I don't have a sibling at this point in time and move forward to selecting my district. If there is someone that does have siblings in the program and you have questions, you'll have time to ask them on this call, or you can give us a call and we can talk you through it.
But I guess we can say in short that if there is an open choice parent on the line and they want to apply for another sibling, that question is there so that we can provide a preference. If the parent wants the district of the current child that's enrolled in the program as their first choice. So that's why that question is there, so that we can determine which families get a preference. And it's only the families that want the district of the current enrolled student to be their first choice.
Thank you, Renita. As we look at the districts, as we learned up top here, you can choose up to 5 suburban districts. Know that when you're making your choice, this is called rank ordering your choices. So this first choice that you make will be your first choice district for your student to go into the lottery for. You can choose up to 5. It asks you if you'd like to. This is going to be my second choice or my second preference. And I'll just choose 3. I don't have to choose 5. Please only choose on your application those districts that you are certain you would like to be considered for. What happens often is that parents will fill all of their options, receive an offer to say their 5th or 3rd or 4th choice, and realize that they really did not want that option. Filling in the boxes doesn't increase your chance of a seat necessarily, but it might increase your chance of receiving a seat that you don't want. So please only put on your application what you're interested in. The next question has to do with applying sibling preference. This only applies to open choice, not magnet school. What we're asking here, or what you're being asked here, is do you also have a child that you'll be completing an application for this year who will also be applying to open choice? If your answer is yes, then it is asking you to go ahead and put that child's information in. As this is the first of 2 siblings, there really isn't going to be anything for you to complete here. When you complete the second application for the second child, you will be linked in our database and the sibling information will populate. To keep moving forward, though, I'm going to say I don't have a sibling. If you do have questions about how to complete that, please give us a call in the Regional School Choice Office.
So I just wanted to add, if there are some Hartford families that are listening, we do provide extra preferences. Our schools are further away, and so sometimes those seats are harder to fill, but Open Choice is the only program that will make an attempt to get all of the siblings in that application year. And the district may not have given us those seats, but we can always go back to the superintendent and say, hey, you know, this first grader received a seat, but they also have a fifth and a second grader. Can you provide a seat for us? And in most cases, the superintendents are able to accommodate our request, but if they're full, they may not. But we always ask, and quite a few of the families can get all of their children in that same year, and that will not happen with magnet schools.
A couple of other things before we leave this page, because we don't want to assume. Because of the address that was entered into this application, our student automatically populated 4 zones. As I had mentioned, there are 4 zones in the city of Hartford. Had this been a different zone, had it been 1, 2, or 3, then these choices that you would see down here, the suburban districts, would be different. Each zone has its own grouping of districts that apply to it. So the only reason we are seeing these districts that were in the drop-down box is because the student lives in Zone 4. The other point that I wanted to mention is that we do have a pop-up box here that explains what siblings are under the RSCO application. So if I click that box, the important thing for you to know is that siblings are brothers or sisters who must live in the same household and must share the same parent. So if children are not living at the same address, then they are not considered siblings under the Regional School Choice Office.
Now, I wanted to go back in regards to the addresses, and maybe you can expound more on that. So for Open Choice, the requirement is you must be a Hartford resident in order to be eligible to select these regular suburban public schools. So if a family has a parent that lives in Hartford and one that lives in the suburbs, again, we have said that placement of the child is based on the address of the child. So in order for a child to be eligible for our program, if they're a Hartford resident, the address for the child must be the Hartford address. Otherwise, you will not see these options. For those that live outside of Hartford, your options would be designated participating schools that are in the Hartford public system, and those are regular schools, regular Hartford public schools. So for suburban residents, the list would just list those participating schools that contain the grade for your child. But for Hartford residents, that child must have a Hartford address in order for them to be able to apply for the suburban public schools. So parents need to work that out. The parent should be staying a few nights with that parent in Hartford. We do have parents sometimes, a few nights. The child should be staying. Oh, the child. What did I say? The parent? If they get along, they should stay together. But yes, the child must be living a few nights in Hartford in order to be eligible. And we've had parents. I just spoke with someone the other day, but the child's constantly late because the parent mother is bringing them to school or trying to get them to a bus stop in Hartford. But that's affecting the child's education adversely because they have high absenteeism. And the parent, the student is staying with the parent that is in the suburbs, and that's not how this program works. So the parents need to work together to work out a schedule that the parent can stay a few nights with the parent in Hartford and a few nights with the parent in the suburbs, but the bus will not go outside of Hartford to pick up a child. They must get them to a bus stop in Hartford or drive them directly to the school.
Thanks, Renita. I'm going to go ahead and click Next, which will bring us, we've completed the Open Choice section. We've covered other bases. Does anyone have any questions on the Open Choice page before we leave it?
I do. I typed in the chat box, but I was just waiting for you to finish. I didn't want to interrupt.
Thank you. Go ahead.
My question is, so we live in Meriden. So to be part of this Open Choice, would we be able to? We would just have a different zone. Is that what you were saying?
The zones apply only to Hartford residents. if at the front end of the application you had started with your Meriden address and
Yes.
come eventually to the page that we were on, this top banner that says Hartford Region Open Choice Non-Magnet would also have information that says for suburban or non-Hartford students.
Okay,
So
got it.
And so as you come through the application, it will ask if you want to apply, and if you say yes, what you will get in a drop-down box is not a zone indicator. You will get a list of the Hartford schools, non-magnet, that you're eligible to apply to.
Understood. Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Anyone else have a question before we leave the open choice page?
Yes, I do have a question. Okay, I live in East Hartford, and the closest magnet school is the Museum Academy in Windsor. So I was reading through the website, and that indicates that we need to attend information program. Is this in Bloomfield, or I should just go straight to the Museum Academy?
So the information that you are asking about is for an information session at the Museum Academy, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. So off the top of my head, I don't know exactly the location for the information session, but if you go to this CREC.org website, all of the open houses and information sessions for the school are posted via that website. CREC, one word, .org.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
You're welcome. Anyone else with a question on the open choice page? All right, so we've completed the open choice portion. We're going to go ahead and click next and move to the last question about open choice. You'll see this all districts option, which is asking you whether or not you would like to be considered for an open choice seat in a district which you have not chosen. So what happens sometimes is that toward the end of the lottery cycle, or maybe not the end, but maybe in the middle of the lottery placement cycle, seats may remain available in districts which some parents may not have chosen. So you might find yourself on a waiting list for the districts that you've chosen on your application. And what you're being asked here is, would you like to be contacted by the Regional School Choice Office to be notified of seats available in a district you may not have chosen? If you say yes to this option here, it only means that you would be contacted and asked, hey, would you like a seat in this district? We know you haven't chosen it, but they do have a seat and available in the grade that you'd like. If you say yes, then you're placed into that seat, or your child is placed, and you come off of the waiting list for the districts that you have chosen. If you say no, there's no harm. You remain on the waiting list for the districts that you've chosen. So yes is another way to be provided the possibility of more options for your child, no penalty. If you say no, you know you only want those districts and you consider nothing else, there's no penalty to that either. You just stay on the waiting list for the district and hope that you do get a seat. That is the last question that you have to answer for the open choice program. We'll click next and move ahead, and I'll turn this over to my colleague Nilda Hernandez, who will step you through the magnet school portion.
Thank you, Callie.
You're welcome.
Okay, so now we've come up to the magnet school portion of the application. So regardless of how you responded to the open choice program, whether you decided to participate in it or not, either way, then you will come up to this portion of the magnet school. And as you see there, it shows that applicants can select up to 5 magnet schools. And again, it would be in a ranked order, order of preference. And if you see there a link that says more information on siblings, if you, again, needed some information on what is the sibling, then of course you would be able to do that at that point. And then you would get the information, specific information on siblings. So for the first, the question that it asks for the magnet school portion is, do you want to apply to a magnet school? And at this point, of course, if you do want to apply to a magnet school, you would indicate yes. And you will see this pop-up message that also came up in the open choice section that indicates that if you select both programs, that you will get, you may get an offer in one only and not both programs. And at this point, we will come up to the first choice, and if you click anywhere on the bar or even in the arrow, you'll see that the schools that pop up are the ones that your child is eligible to attend, which is a nice feature to have, because in the past we had where all schools would pop up, but now we just see the ones that your child is eligible for. And at this point, we'll go ahead and we'll select first choice. And recommendation again to parents is that make sure that you know which schools you're selecting, because as my colleague mentioned before, if you select a school that you really don't want and that's the one that you get as an offer, that wouldn't be a good thing. So make sure that you know which schools you are selecting before you do so. So we'll go ahead and make a selection of a school here. A question? Yes? So, so we made the first choice here, and then the next question that will pop up after that selection is, do you have a sibling or siblings who now attends a magnet school and will continue to attend that school in the following year? If you do have a child that currently attends that particular school, then you will go ahead and indicate yes and provide the information for that child that is currently at that school. If you don't have a child that is currently there, then of course you would click on no. Keep in mind that this is only for children that are already attending a school there and will return, not for two applying siblings. So if, explain a little bit more. So, I have a child in a magnet school. Does that mean my child is eligible for sibling preference for any magnet school? Your child is, that's a very good question, and your child is only eligible for for preference for the first choice. So that if you do have a child who attends a magnet school and you want that magnet school for the applying child, that would have to be your first choice on the application. So that is a good question. Mm-hmm. And then we go on to our second choice. If you do want another option, selection, then you would go ahead and click yes, and then click on the bar to open up all the schools again. And then you would go ahead and select another school of your choice. Go ahead and select one of the other schools here. And then, again, those questions will pop up. But keeping in mind, based on the question that Renita asked, this child would not be eligible for preference here. Only if they have a child that's already attending there. And then we'll go on to,
and do you get a preference if I choose it as my second choice, or?
No, you don't. You only get a preference if you choose it as your first choice. So only your first choice school do you get a preference for sibling preference.
And any school will give me a preference for my child?
Only the CREC magnets at this point will give you a preference for your child for sibling.
So I've seen it happen where a parent, like Callie was saying, they have a child, let's say it's this breakthrough, but they're saying that your child really wants discovery, then they don't get discovery and later on now want the breakthrough magnet. Mm-hmm. Is there any possibility of changing that once the lottery is closed?
No, unfortunately, you can only make changes to your school selection during the application period of November 1st to February 28th. Once the application closes on the 28th, you are not able to make any changes to your school selection.
Go ahead. I don't know if you had a question, Callie, but maybe both you and Callie can address, parents have been applying multiple years, and not getting in. Can you explain some of the factors that are involved that allow them not to be able to get in? So I don't know, I believe this child was a first grader that we initially put in, and they've been applying for years. Just talk a little bit about, the chances of getting in and seat availability and all of that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I did want to go, before I answer that question, I wanted to go back to the question of the schools, rather the preference, and that would be that your best bet is to check with the schools for preferences, because the Regional School Choice Office is an office that has various partners, so each partner runs a little differently. So your best bet is to check with the school with regard to the preference option. Now, to the question that Renita had, if you have applied in past years, we don't have the preference for repeated applications year after year. So again, you're a new parent, or rather your parent just applying once again another year. That would be that particular, that's what would be happening in that particular instance.
One of the things to note, too, about that is that if you're applying, in this case, for grade 1, the entry points into the classrooms really are at pre-K 3, where all seats are empty, grade 6, in a school that starts in middle school at grade 6, and in a school that starts at grade 9. So I think Renita was asking for the parent who is applying to grade 1 and says, I've been trying this since my child has been in pre-K and still haven't gotten in. What's going on? Understand then that the pre-K students who do get in have a high retention rate. And so they move up to pre-K 4 and into kindergarten and into first grade. So anyone who is applying after that entry point really is encountering classrooms that, for all intents and purposes, are almost full. So is that what you were?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that might explain why someone feels they've entered, an application every year for 5 years. After the entry point, you really are coming up against the classroom that might be full.
And the other thing that I see quite a bit with families applying to magnet schools, when you get to those 6th graders and 9th graders, if you could share a little bit about how they should select schools to give them the best chance. There's hundreds of applications that are applying for the same grade you are at the same school that you're giving it. So we can't accommodate everyone giving seats. But explain, I see a lot of 6th graders that might be selecting elementary schools that go up to 8th grade, or 9th graders that selecting schools as their first top choices that go from 6 to 12. So just can you shed more light on those grades, grades 6 and 9 in particular?
Yeah, so that is a good point. Some of the schools do begin in grade 6 and run through grade 12, and as Renita mentioned, and others go from pre-K to 8th grade. So yeah, if you have a child, for example, going into 6, your best bet, your better opportunity is to apply to a school that begins from 6th to 12th grade, because of course that's the entry level or the entry grade of that school. The same thing for a child going into, let's say, 9th grade. If you wish to apply to a 9th grade, probably a better opportunity for you is to apply to a school that begins at 9th grade, because that would be the entry point of that particular school. So that's how it would improve your chances a little bit as into getting into one of the magnet schools. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
And then we have another choice that we can make, and I'll just make this one final choice to move on with the application. And then I'll just choose another one of our magnets here, and then same thing, you'll get that same question. And at this point, we're going to say no. And at this point, I'm done. These are all the selections I want to make. So at the 4th choice, I'm going to indicate no, that I'm not interested in another selection. And then we'll click next to go to the next screen. And here we have the all magnet option. And this is the option where a child, if you are willing to have a child offered a school that you did not select, then you would click yes to this question. For example, if there's a school that has seats available and you did not select it, and you say yes to this all-magnet option, we then may be able to offer you this particular seat. And then at that point, if you choose to accept the seat, that's fine. That's great. You would move on to register that child. If you choose not to accept the seat, then at that point you would that would be fine. We would acknowledge that, and then your child will still remain on the wait list for your original selection. So I just wanted to clarify that in this particular case. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes to the all-magnet option. Any questions so far? Okay, so we moved on to the next screen here, and at this point we're nearing the end of the application. At this point we have the agreement statement, which is, you know, as applying to anything, we have to confirm that the information that we're providing is correct and it's true. And then we also give you some kind of reminders that your child is eligible for only one offer, and so on and so forth. So at this point, if you are in agreement with all the statements, then we ask that you click on the box here on the lower left, that you confirm and agree that you are the parent, that you agree to everything that you've offered so far, kind of like your signature. And then we click next here to go to what we have is a survey. And this is just so that we have some data and some information as to where our parents are hearing about the Regional School Choice Office and our application. And then the second question is, you know, where you are completing your application. We do have a number of satellite sites throughout the region that have been provided training. Their staff provided training, so that if you go to any of these particular areas or any of these satellite sites, you should be able to apply there online, and there is staff available to help you out with an application. So at this point, you can select all that apply, as many as apply. So how did you hear about us? Let's say, you know, parent to parent, or my child's school. That, you know, you can select all that apply. And then the second question, that maybe you completed the application at home. We could say that. And then we move on to the next screen. This is very, very important screen here, because at this point, while you have completed the application, you have not submitted it yet. So at this point, we ask that you go through the application and review, just as it asks there at the top of the page. So you go through and you make sure that all the information is correct: your child's name, date of birth, your address, the parent information.
Can you share the importance of keeping their contact information current?
Yes, that is key. So if you do, throughout the petition period, happen to move or change your phone number or any information that would be vital for us to be able to contact you, it's important that you let us know as soon as possible so that we can keep our information updated and be able to keep you informed.
So parents can themselves go in and make any updates to their application. Up until what time?
Yes, parents are able to make any changes to their applications between, again, November 1st and February 28th. At that time, because when you do the application, you would go in through using your email address and a password. You are then able to use that same information to log back in and make any changes. After February 28th, when we close the application, if there are any changes to be made, we ask that you contact the RSCO office, and we will make those changes for you.
Okay, we have another question. Can you share a little bit about, you know, tuition costs for preschoolers, and then whether or not CREC will be charging families to participate?
At this time, we do not have any. We don't have any charges for preschool, so that schools the magnet schools at this point are free of charge for the families.
The only charges that a parent will encounter in this upcoming school year, if they do have a pre-K or any age child actually, is before and after care. Each school sets its own scale, so you would have to check with the school to which you're accepted, but those would be the only additional charges for students in the 2017-18 school year.
Thank you. So we now move on. So provided that everything else is correct, all the information is correct, you can then come to the bottom to submit. However, if you find that throughout this review process, you find that there's something you'd like to change, maybe one of your school selections, or correct an address or a phone number, you can always go down to the bottom and click on Make Changes, and it will bring you back to the beginning of the application, where then you can go through and make any change that you need to. But if everything is correct, then you go ahead and you click here on the left-hand side that indicates that the information is correct, and you don't need to make any changes. And then you click Submit Application, and then your application will be submitted at this point and will be done. At this point, it's all been done, and it's ready for the lottery. What will they receive once they hit that Submit button? Once you hit the Submit button, you will receive an email confirmation to let you know that your application has been successfully submitted. And that's when you have an option of either printing your application if you have, if you're able to do so, or then you close the application, and then you go to, it brings you back to your account that you opened up with your email address. And as you can see, the first application that you submitted is already there. If you wish to add another student, of course, you can do so by clicking on the right-hand side. And if you wish to go back to make any changes to the student that you already entered, then you can click on the link there with the student's name, and you would make any changes that you need to there. So at this point, I mean, this completes the application portion.
So some parents have called us after the application is closed and wanting to check on the status of their child, and we can't find them. So clicking that Submit button is important. A lot of parents get caught up in the preview and print from there possibly, and they don't hit Submit. You must, after you hit Submit, go back to your email account and make sure that you've received an email confirmation. That email is also a copy of your application, and that confirms that the application was submitted successfully. So that a lot of parents miss that. So everyone should check their email after hitting Submit and make sure you get a confirmation email.
And to add to that, please do an application for each child that you want to have the opportunity for a seat in the lottery, and then check that you have received an email for each child's application to be certain that everything has been submitted correctly.
Right. Someone had a question about the what's required for proof of address. So I'm wondering if we could kind of give them, we're over the hour, but give them a brief overview of what the placement process actually is. When will the lottery take place? How will people be contacted? And then specifically for this parent, and what's required for proof of address for her school.
Sure. So once the application period closes on February 28th, we do take some time over at the Regional School Choice Office to do what we call kind of a cleanup period, where we go through the database, make sure that we don't have any duplicate applications. We confirm that siblings are the siblings, and any other issues that may rise in the application. And then once that is completed, then the state prepares to run the lottery sometime in the spring. Generally, we aim for April to run that, but it could be as late as May to run the lottery. Once we do run the lottery, then you will be notified by the Regional School Choice Office, and you will receive notification in your email, and you'll also receive a letter in the mail that letting you know whether your child was offered a seat or placed on the wait list. So for sure, everyone will receive some type of notification, regardless of how they fared in the lottery. If your child receives an offer to a school, not only will you get the email notification and the letter in the mail, but you will also receive a courtesy phone call from the school letting you know that your child has been offered a seat, and then to ask you to respond, because then you have a certain amount of time in which to respond to the offer. Generally, we will, at the beginning, we will give you about 2 weeks, 14 days to respond to your offer. and you will do that online. In the email, you will receive directions on how to do that. Same thing if you do receive a wait list letter letting you know that your child or children are on the wait list, you will also have a period of time in which to respond to that you want to remain on the wait list. So that is very important to, come the spring to really check your email to make sure that you're not missing something that's timely. So that's how basically the lottery runs. And then throughout the summer, after we run the lottery, then we will run subsequent rounds of offers based on any declines, any families that decline an offer, or any offers that are not responded to within the response time. Then we do what I call collect those offers and offer them again in a subsequent round. If we continue to do that up until either all the seats are accepted or October 1st, whichever comes first.
Great. Your proof of residence will be a copy of your mortgage lease, your rental agreement, a certified letter signed by the person who you may be sharing an apartment with. But I do believe that there was a question about how do I prove where I reside, and mortgage, rental, or certified letter.
Utility bills are also big. Now, for open choice, we work with 25 towns that give new seats. So each town can be different, but the majority of them, and the proof, as Callie was saying, that almost everyone will accept, and that's a strong evidence of your address, either a mortgage or lease statement, but also the utility bill, a recent utility bill, and we want it dated within 60 days. And that's pretty standard for most, but for open choice, we ask them to get it from their district. We'll give an overview, but when the district calls you, they'll tell you specifically what you need, but those always are good.
Someone asked a question about the number of applications that we anticipate receiving, and you used a pretty good number. Each year we do receive about 20,000 applications in the lottery, and on average those 20,000 applications are applying for approximately 4,000 seats, plus or minus on either side. I think the lowest number, Nilda and I have been working with the lottery now for 6 or 7 years. The lowest number years ago might have been about 15,000, 14, 15,000. But the last few years, it's been in the 20s.
Yeah, and someone had a question in regards to, is there a listing of how many seats that we receive? I'll let the other ladies talk about the magnet schools, but for open choice, right now we have no idea what seats we're going to get. For the magnet schools, the Commissioner of Education sends out a letter to all the superintendents sometime in January, and each town has to look and determine whether or not they're going to give seats for open choice students. They have a seat declaration that they must submit by March 1st, and on that seat declaration it tells us how many seats they're going to give us, for what grades, and at what schools. So we don't have seats for everyone. For open choice, we can only fill the seats that the districts give to SDE and to populate the database with. That changes. The initial date is March 1st, but that changes throughout the summer. Sometimes they find out that they have extra space because families moved out, and then they can edit their seat declaration to give more seats. And there's times that they find out there's so many people are moving into their district that they have to remove some seats that they had given us. So that number changes frequently throughout the summer. But for the most part, there's a good number of seats that we receive right up front. But so no, we do not know what seats we will have until those seat declarations come in. But for open choice, we had approximately 465, 68 seats this year to fill. And so for magnet schools, they can talk a little bit about their seats.
Right, so for magnet schools, basically what happens is each school declares a number of seats based on how many students are returning the following year, and also once the preferences have been factored into it. So for example, if we go through the list and figure out that we're going to offer a certain amount of seats based on the returning students. And then at that point also we look into how many siblings we're going to have requested seats. And also in addition to that, we have what we call the pathway preference, and that's for students who currently attend our magnet schools and have completed all the levels that are, for example, elementary. Let's say they've completed up to 5th grade, and so now they need another school to go to for middle school. Then we would give them a pathway preference into one of our magnet schools. So those preferences go first, and then the remainder of the seats then go to the general lottery applicants.
So for parents that are applying, I mean, the summary to this information is that at the point in time that you apply, we don't know what seats we have available. That, I think, is probably, you know, what's most important to you. We have no way to predict what the number of seats that are going to be available in either magnet schools or open choice.
Right. So, with regard to the number of seats, as my colleague mentioned, right, that does change. And at the same time, the seats that we do get, we have to keep in mind that half of those seats are for Hartford residents, and the other half are for suburban residents. So that, again, it's the number of overall seats may change, but we always have to keep in mind that half of the students that go to our magnet schools have to be from Hartford, and the other half have to be suburban students.
There's some other things came to my mind about those Hartford residents that are applying to open choice. If you are in a terminal grade now, meaning the last grade for the school you're enrolled in, you also must complete a Hartford choice application. So because the magnet schools and open choice they're not guaranteed, in addition to completing a RSCO application, you must also, so if you're applying to kindergarten or 9th grade, you must also apply to the Hartford public school system as your backup.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we have a couple more questions. Let's ask those. It says, what about the makeup of the available seats? Meaning, X number are reserved for Hartford, X numbers are reserved for town, and X number for...
Yeah, that's the one that I answered about Hartford and suburban.
Okay.
There's a pathways question.
Yes, no, she asked that. She didn't answer the question. Oh, there were two. This one is just about reserved towns. Like, for instance, those East Hartford schools, they might have a certain number of seats set aside for East Hartford residents. If you can maybe share some.
Right. Some of our schools do have a kind of an agreement that a number of seats will go to applicants in their town if the school is located in their town. What we call partner district. And so that there are a number of seats that are already allocated for those particular towns. And so those would be reserved, if you will, for students who are applying from those particular towns. That's about the only other condition that I can think of with regard to seats.
Now we have sometimes it's strange, but this year we've had and every year we have it, but a large number of parents that receive a placement and then they're calling saying, I didn't select that, or I didn't want that school. And for one parent, it was her first choice. So can you talk about, we talk about the steps that we recommend for parents, but that homework piece and researching the schools, can you talk a little bit about that? So for magnet schools, if you get a placement of a school that you selected and you don't accept it, you're taken off of the wait list for everything. So we really just talk about doing their homework, knowing what they're selecting, and even when it comes to magnet schools, you don't have to select up to 5, but if you do, liking that 4th choice or 5th choice just as much as the first choice, and do they really need to pick all 5 schools if that's not what they really want?
Right, that is a good point. Yeah, we do always, as I always suggest to parents, that they really do their homework before they apply. Remember, this is not a first come, first serve type of application or lottery system. So if you applied on November 1st or you apply on February 28th, it's the same opportunity. So what we do always recommend to parents is do your homework, find out about the schools, attend an open house or more at the schools, attend a RSCO fair, just ask about the different schools. There are, some schools that the names may sound similar or look similar, and we've had that problem. For example, the Greater Hartford Academy of the Arts has a half-day program and a full-day program. So those are two options, and many times families select the one that they did not mean to select, and then when they get the offer, they say, I didn't choose that one. So be very careful also when you make your selections. And as Renita mentioned, you don't have to select all 5. If there's only one school that you absolutely want, then make that your only choice. If not, if you're open to equally accept any of your options, then go ahead and choose as many as you like, as long as you understand that that's how the process works.
I always tell parents to ask, when you put a school down and you're reviewing your application, ask yourself the question, if my child receives a placement in this school or program, would I accept it? If your answer is no, then you should remove it from your application. So quite a few families get their 3rd, 4th, or 5th choice first because those wait lists are a little shorter than their first choice. And then the question they always ask is, well, then if I accept this, can I stay on the wait list for my first choice? The answer is no. You lose your placement for everything that you selected. For open choice, we talked about the retention. Sometimes parents make the mistake of selecting the wrong grade, but they receive a placement for the grade in which they applied to. In some cases, the parent might still be able to keep that seat if the district has it available or are willing to make the seat available. But in most times, if you put the wrong grade down, then you're out of luck for that placement. For open choice, if you're declined or don't accept, you go at the bottom of the wait list. So there's a possibility for another placement, but that usually only happens in kindergarten because we get the majority of our seats in that grade. But for everyone else, that they're pretty much out of luck for that year to get a placement.
Also, can you address, Renita, if a family moves in or out of Hartford once the placements are made?
Say that again?
And can you address also what happens if a family moves in or out of Hartford once the placement is made?
Yeah, that happens. Okay, so this applicant that we used today was a Hartford resident. They get a placement in a suburban public school. They're in that school, and they found a beautiful house, let's say in Windsor. So what they should do is notify the parent, or I should say notify the principal in the district that they've moved. Technically, once you move out of Hartford for open choice, you are ineligible for the program. But some superintendents will, if you ask and share the circumstances, give permission for that child to continue in the district as a non-open choice student, either to finish out that semester for Christmas break or to complete the year. It all depends on when the family decides to move. So if the district approves, that child can continue in that suburban district to finish out that year. The superintendent has to ask open choice director for permission to continue to ride the open choice bus. But again, CREC transportation is not going outside of Hartford to pick up the student. So the parent has to make arrangements to get them directly to school or to bring them to a bus stop that's in Hartford. Plus we have situations, and maybe you can address it also, during this application period. So now they're submitting the application, but let's say they move, share what happens if they move before the lottery, and then share what happens when they move after the lottery's been conducted.
So if you moved before the lottery but didn't change your address with us, of course, that's the information we'll have. And then what we'll do is basically transportation will be arranged based on the address that you provide when you register. But in terms of moving in or out of Hartford, if you're applying to magnet school, that doesn't apply, meaning that any student in Connecticut is eligible for these schools. So regardless of where you live in Connecticut, you can attend these schools. So if you move, let's say, from Hartford to Windsor, using Renita's example, and you accepted a magnet school placement, your child will still be able to continue attending that particular magnet school. If your address changes after the lottery has been conducted, it's basically notifying the school, letting the school know, because transportation is dependent on all of that. It's based on where you live, and that's how it will be arranged.
So what happens after the lottery? If
scores before, comparing the two, if a parent finds out that they put the wrong grade for the child, and they call to have RSCO update that?
If it's done before the lottery runs, we can make the corrections or the changes. However, if it happens after you've received an offer, you will not be able to accept that seat because the offer that we have made is for a particular seat or grade, so that we cannot go ahead and offer you a seat in another grade, as already those seats have been offered to other folks. But what we do recommend in a situation like that is that you contact the RSCO office, and we would look into it on a case-by-case basis.
Now, do those students that change their grade after the lottery, do they maintain their same position on the wait list, or what happens?
No, unfortunately, what happens is that once they do let us know that that they're going to be retained or that their grade has changed, we do end up placing them at the bottom of the wait list, of the on-time wait list. So their number will change, their wait list number.
So now for suburban families that receive a magnet placement there in their magnet schools, will their placement be affected if they move to another suburban town or to move to Hartford?
No, I had mentioned that earlier, that it doesn't affect them at all if they move in or out of Hartford when it comes to a magnet school placement. So, yeah, that's fine.
Before we wrap up, when we started out this morning, we started with an applicant who had done an application the previous year, and so we had the advantage of the application pre-populating with your home address and your email address, all of your data that you had entered last year. So just quickly know that if you're new, and choose new on the home page of the RSCO lottery application, you will receive an email with a temporary password, which you will come back in and use on the login page here. So check your email. If you are entering your name and email address for the first time into the system, check your email for the temporary password, and then use that temporary password here on the login page and set up your account. Somebody's mic is open. I don't know whose mic that is, but use your temporary password to set up the account and then proceed as we've done this morning.
Great. So I think that's going to wrap it up. Everyone had some great questions. We thank everyone that participated. Again, this webinar is being recorded, and we will post it on the CREC.org website. It will be available via YouTube and on the Open Choice website as well. If you have additional questions, feel free to give the address for the RSCO office, the email address, and the phone number.
Sure. The RSCO address is www.choiceeducation.org, and the phone number to reach us at RSCO is 860-713-6972, and that's the Regional School Choice Office.
Great. Thank you so much again for your time. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and we wish you the best in the lottery.